everyone to Glossy's bi-weekly now beauty debrief here on LinkedIn. I'm Lexi Lebsack, our West Coast correspondent, and I'm here with a few of my colleagues, Tatiana Pyle, the managing editor here at Glossy, Sophia Svenflinske, Glossy's international fashion reporter, and Courtney Marabella, Glossy's social media and audience manager. Hello, everyone. There's a lot going on in the beauty industry right now. So for today's episode, we're going to break down a couple of the biggest beauty topics of the month. So we'll be diving into in-person immersive activations, which of course we've seen gain popularity across beauty, wellness, and all kinds of live events that are happening right now. So many exciting things, IRL. We'll also be discussing the blurring line between healthcare and beauty, which of course we know has been happening for a few years. And we have a lot of really great examples for you today. Tatiana's going to touch on injectables, oral care, all of these really interesting sort of melting into each other beauty categories with health. And then, of course, we're going to get into a little bit of holiday sales projections, which I know it's quite early, but there's a reason that we're getting into it early this year. So let's go ahead and start. Tatiana, let's kick it off with you. Let's talk a little bit about that blurring line between healthcare and beauty. What have you found in your reporting?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say I'm cheating just a little bit because one of the stories that I'm going to bring up today, I did cover in August, but I thought it was a perfect talking point for today's conversation. So there were two stories that I wrote about, learned a little bit more about that I thought were really interesting. And again, like you said, this has been happening for quite some time now, but I think the difference now is that there's really a more definitive line that they're crossing into luxury. So there is an oral wellness clinic in Flatiron in New York called Sama that just recently opened that is focusing on really being a one-stop shop for its clients to receive a lot of those more luxury cosmetic procedures as well as standard oral care services. So this clinic offers teeth cleaning, it offers cavity fillings, it offers veneers, but in the same breath, it also offers access to a sauna, which I thought was just mind-blowing. And I actually got an opportunity to view the space. And I had no idea where they would fit a sauna, but it's in one of those standard clinic rooms. Excuse me. And they also offer Botox and other injectables and fillers for their clients as well. And I thought it was really, really interesting because, we've seen a lot of spaces where you can go to a wellness spa, for instance, and you can get some of those cosmetic procedures, but not at a healthcare clinic that specializes in oral care. I thought it was just indicative of where the industry is going. I think a lot of times what I thought was really interesting, the dentist who founded the space, she told me that a lot of her clients feel intimidated about going into a dentist's office, which I can also speak to myself personally. I don't always like to go to the dentist because it kind of feels really sterile and informal and impersonal. So her space is inviting. She has biracial candles that are throughout the space where it feels really comforting and really luxurious. And again, she can offer many services in that one space. So I thought that was really interesting. And then the other point that I wanted to touch on was there's this really cool supplement brand that focuses on Chinese Western medicine, and it's called Elix. And they just recently came out with a clinical study that talked about some of the implications of the lack of access to healthcare for women. And their brand is really to advocate for more wellness infused approach, a more wellness infused approach to healthcare symptoms, more primarily being PCOS and a lot of other like fertile based or reproductive based problems that many women face. So it was really interesting. And again, I think it just, again, is talking about a larger shift where a lot of healthcare practitioners focusing on how to engage their patients. And a lot of them are kind of going that lane of integrating beauty and wellness into their practices.
How interesting. I was on a panel last week or maybe the week before for Beauty Independent West, which is like a trade group serving the beauty industry. And we were taking questions, and this guy stood up and he's like, I don't understand. I think he was a founder. And he's like, I don't understand why oral care is left out of all of these different beauty categories. I don't understand why we're not getting the same attention. And I think that you're kind of hitting the nail on the head here, Tatiana. I think that there's like this whole movement right now to bring oral care into beauty. And he was like, I don't understand why it's even considered separate.
No, totally. I 100% agree. I think especially because in recent times we've been seeing this huge trend of celebrities, public figures, people who can afford it getting veneers and not really touching upon the importance of a proper oral care hygiene and maintenance, and how your mouth is connected to so many other systems and organs and nerves in your body. So it's so crucial to have proper oral care maintenance, but also it's the vanity aspect. People are getting these new sets of teeth, or they're focusing on the mouth, and it's a beauty element too. So I'm confused as to why this is a new trend, but again, it's happening, and I think maybe it's starting from the top to the bottom. So oral care was kind of left out of the conversation, but there's really cool and exciting brands like Flouse, for instance, which is a floss stick. It's like it's powered by batteries. It's really, really cool. It's kind of just eliminating the idea of having to manually floss your teeth. It is a one-stop shop. So I do think that oral care is very slowly getting that beauty treatment.
Ooh, I saw Flouse on Shark Tank. And then I immediately ordered one, like sitting on the couch, because she was so convincing. And then they sent me a message and they're like, it'll ship in 6 months or something completely insane. And I was like, no, you didn't project this properly. But I've also been eyeing that.
Yeah, no, it's actually so cool. So I also own one of the floss sticks or floss brushes, and I came with a little pouch, and it has branding all over it that says floss. And one day I was wearing it as a hand pouch on its own, and I kid you not, this Gen Z person comes up to me, and actually I think they were Gen Alpha because they were a teenager. They came up to me and they were like, "Oh, you know about floss? That's the cool brand to have." And I felt so cool and in the know. But yeah, oral care is absolutely getting the beauty treatment.
And do you think that it's something that all clinics can end up doing just to kind of bring in that younger demographic, or do you think it's kind of limited to certain types of clinics?
I think that's a really good question, and I do think just thinking about how much people are emphasizing physical aesthetics in this new time, I do think that is something that many clinics can explore, but I do think it's really important to be really intentional about what you're integrating into your clinic. Like, there's no reason why I would ever go into a podiatrist's office and expect to get injectables, but I think it could be really cool if a podiatrist's office wasn't already doing medical manic or pedicures. They should absolutely be exploring integrating that into their practice.
Yeah, of course. I think that that's a really good point, and I completely get you on the flouse thing. There's like a lot of Instagram ads that I keep getting about like very posh like toothbrushes. And I always think like that's kind of like where it's going next. Like everyone wants to upgrade every part of their life, including oral care.
Absolutely. And it also goes back to what a lot of body care brands are talking about when they say, they're redoing their packaging. For instance, like Pros has recently redid their packaging, and a lot of it was rooted in we want to make sure our products look good on your countertops, because social media, really rules a lot of brand awareness. Say, for instance, like Rode, for instance, they have the phone case now. So they want to make sure that if there's any moment for an Instagrammable opportunity, that they want to make sure that their product looks good on bathroom counter shelves or in the shower as well. So I think that's why we'll definitely be seeing in the next year or so floss brands, toothbrushes, toothpaste, mouthwash, all of it is going to be getting the beauty edit for sure.
Yeah, I think Suri was the brand that I was thinking of for the toothbrushes. I know in the UK, like if you want like posh toothpaste, you go for Marvis, the one which has like that Victorian level branding.
Yep.
So interesting. I also feel like I have to call out. I saw a headline on Instagram yesterday, but I think it was from earlier this week, and it was the Times in the UK, and it was this woman, and she was talking about how she took this medical test, and it helped her determine that a gum infection was actually what caused her breast cancer. Now, I don't know, like, it's so wild, right? And I just feel like we're right on the precipice of this becoming, because I've seen those headlines before as well. I think we're right on the precipice of this becoming like a much larger conversation about longevity as well, linking into oral care.
Absolutely.
And the whole gut health aspect as well. I'm sure there's a lot to go into on the body's microbiome, and like, you know, I think you see that the developments around digestive care, especially like how it's linked to stress and hair loss, I think there's all kind of very timely topics that kind of play into the wider wellness kind of conversation.
100%, this like holistic look, and like, you know, at the body and health, and how different industries can better serve consumers as they become smarter around these things. Tatiana, how do you think that like clinics and healthcare providers, as we see this uptick, how can they sort of like do it right? What's like the best pathway?
So I think from having the conversations that I've had in the last month or so, I think one of the biggest things is figuring out, you know, what audience are you trying to serve here? If you're going to go the the ultra luxury route, you need to be very clear about that and the marketing and the pricing and such. But if you're going to go the accessible luxury route, I think it's really, really crucial and key, especially as it relates to healthcare, which already is such a nuanced topic, is to offer opportunities to have people be able to have different types of payment options. I think it's really important. I mean, insurance, whether or not people love or hate it, you know, a lot of people use it. So it's like figuring out a way to make these things accessible in an accessible price point, which can be really difficult if you're offering ultra luxury options like injectables or sauna care, things like that. So I think that is where a lot of these clinics, if they want to integrate more amenities into their clinics, they're going to have to come to terms with who are the audiences that I'm trying to engage here, and how do I want to offer accessibility if that is a choice that I want to make.
That's a great call out. Awesome. That was such great information. Let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about immersive experiences that, of course, we know are very popular across beauty, across fashion, across wellness. Zofia, what did you find in your reporting that you've done recently? And what do beauty insiders sort of need to know about these immersive experiences that we're seeing pop up?
Yeah, of course. So I talked this week with Dina from Shiseido. She's kind of the head of their metaverse and Web3 experiences, and she's been leading a lot of the kind of immersive activations that the brand has been doing. I think with Shiseido, you know, a lot of their products are kind of very high end and luxury. And in particular, this was the essence of Enmei, which is like their highest, most expensive. I think some of the products range at like $500, which is, you know, quite a lot for skincare. So I think with those kind of experiences, they wanted to do something a little bit special, and immersive experiences are really interesting because I don't know if either of you have ever been to like one of those like 4D cinemas.
Is that the ones where they have like the smells and stuff as well? No,
Yeah,
I've seen them online, but I've never been.
Yeah, so I think that that's kind of the experience that they were going for, except luxury. And this is something that I actually managed to experience myself with Dr. Barbara Sturm, who did an activation with the same company. It's called Zydrobe. They kind of take care of these little pods where you get to have a kind of immersive experience with a kind of visual video that you see as you're kind of going through it. It moves, like you've got this whole kind of world surrounding you. You've got scents and smells and movement. Like it's all kind of like a 4D thing. And the Dr. Barbara Sturm one that I went to see was actually really fun. It was all like an underwater world. you went through this whole nature journey, and it's really interesting how it's quite often that these kind of natural experiences are focused on. And it's the same with the essence of enmei, which is this Japanese herb that the company wanted to promote, Shiseido wanted to promote. So with that, they went on to a mountain tour, and that's basically what people were able to experience with this immersive experience, which I think is still going on at Macy's in New York. And obviously the point of it is to try and kind of bring customers on this like storytelling journey. But it's very, very interesting how it's always kind of these luxury experiences which are focusing on this very like immersive, we want to bring you into our world kind of thing, rather than, maybe doing gaming or something which is a little bit more kind of digital. This is all very like, you can feel it. Like,
Wow, Sophia, I'm interested. Why do you think immersive experiences are still important for brands? And then what are the differences between experiences for luxury brands and mass brands?
yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, because luxury brands, I guess the aesthetic and the messaging that they're trying to put across, it really has to be very, very elevated. So with a lot of these digital experiences, the problem with them was that, either they would lag, or that there would be some kind of an issue with tech. So it would almost like ruin that experience for the customer. And I think that that's, something with 4D experiences, like with what Zydro does with their pod. It basically gets rid of those things, because it's focusing on technology that is available right now and is working right now. So I think that that's something that really makes a difference for luxury customers, and for luxury experiences. Whereas, mass brands, as I said before, like they do tend to kind of focus more on gaming, and maybe other kind of more digital activations, where I guess that tech element isn't quite as important, and it's not quite as important to kind of keep that luxury experience throughout. Like you can do a lot of very fun immersive stuff, but you can actually focus on making that experience fun, giving it, giving access to as many people as possible, and that would be the focus rather than the luxury element.
How interesting. We have one question from the audience. I'm going to welcome her up. Let me see if that works. Yeah, Rajat. Hi, welcome. Do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you so much. I was just wondering, is there an opportunity to see what those experiences look like if we don't live in New York and see them in person?
I don't think there is. Unfortunately, the whole point with these luxury experiences is that because they're also 4D and in a pod, I think that Zydro might have some, basically some drafts of like what that kind of looks like online.
Yeah, got it. Or like a YouTube video, or like some type of reel or something. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. But
what is it called? The one in Macy's, is that Barbara Stern or Shiseido? Sorry, I missed
that one is the Shiseido one. So it's Shiseido, and it's I believe it's the Journey of Enmei. I can send
Journey
that.
of Anime. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
That's a really great question, and really brings up the fact that these are kind of exclusive opportunities. Like, you kind of really have to be there. You can't just tune in and watch or listen, which I think is like a nice little layer to that, because it is an experience. Sophia, I'm curious, based on your conversations, what in terms of sort of like what is working in terms of like sort of like joined physical experiences?
Yes, I think this is the other interesting part, and obviously please do go to the article as well on Glossy, where I've kind of gone into some more detail about, how it works and what it's coupled with, and, what Dina and the lovely people at Shiseido are saying about it. But I think that the other kind of aspect is bringing that in with physical experiences. So it's not just about this kind of digital journey that you're on with the brand, but that you're also getting a kind of very elevated customer experience too. So what Shiseido are doing is that they're going to be coupling this with exclusive facials from the brand for some of their more kind of loyal customers. Obviously, that means most likely that that's done based on, purchase history, or, something like how many products have been bought from this new line. As well as, some other experiences that will be VIP only over the next couple of weeks. So I think that that's quite an interesting way that it's not just about this pod alone and the experience in this kind of virtual space, but it's also about extending that through, over time. So it's not just, a flash in the pan moment, but something that's really kind of part of this product journey. Oh, sorry, I just remembered. It's called the Essence of Enme.
So cool. And then this might be a stupid question that maybe I missed at the top of your explanation about this, but of course, like the goal is to get people to shop, right? It's like, are they sort of like exit through the gift shop sort of style, or like how are the people actually converting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be happening with Shiseido, but the way that it happened with Dr. Barbara Sturm at London Fashion Week, of all places, a couple of seasons ago, was that the products were basically part of a gifting suite. So people were able to come in, have a look at the products. I believe that Dr. Barbara Sturm also had a tea. So there was tea that was given out before the experience. And then basically you had to book an appointment and come in, experience the kind of pod immersive journey. I think it takes like 10 to 15 minutes. And then you come out and obviously you get gifted a bag of products. So I think the idea is that it's mostly, the product kind of sampling happens before and after. And the space was very beautifully kitted out as well. It wasn't just kind of the pod alone, but it was very much about, bringing all of that kind of relaxing energy. The whole thing was supposed to be about relaxation into that space. So there was like grasses. I think there was some nice seating areas. It had a very kind of yoga vibe. So I think it's mostly about kind of transporting that experience coupled with, the virtual one.
That makes a lot of sense. And then last question, I think that you're kind of like alluding that realistic immersive experiences tend to work better, sort of like where you're out in, a nature-y kind of environment, as opposed to, being in like a virtual world or something like that. Why do you think that sort of is?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to say it, I'd say that, it's to do with the fact that so many people are looking for unique experiences with travel. That this kind of lets you travel a little bit virtually. It gives you a little bit of an escape for, 10 to 15 minutes. You get to experience something where it really does kind of feel like you're actually there. And especially coupled with, music that's kind of gentle and relaxing, it does almost feel like a spa experience coupled with, getting to know a location that you might not have seen before virtually. So I think with what they're doing with Shiseido is that, they're transporting you to a Japanese mountain. Obviously, that's not something that people would probably do on an everyday basis. So it allows you to experience a different side of things coupled with the brand's history. Obviously, Shiseido is Japanese, so that kind of ties it in there.
That makes sense. It reminds me of that ride at Disneyland, or California Adventure rather, the flying over California, which was like so dynamic when it came out because it has like the wind and the mist and the smells, and people love this stuff. It's cool.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I know that this is very much not beauty related, but if you're ever in Disneyland in Japan, or I think it's the Universal World in Osaka, like that's something that they really focus on, these kind of immersive 3D rides. And there was one which is Mario, where you can basically use 3D goggles to shoot your way out of the ride, which is very, very cool. But I think a lot of people were interested in that. Like that had the biggest queues when I went there. I think it's very much the same for immersive experiences. For the Dr. Barbara Sturm, it was very hard to get an appointment just so I could try it out myself. So I'm sure that the Shiseido one is very much the same.
Yeah, it feels very luxury, very like access focused. So interesting. Well, we're probably going to see a lot more of that coming down the pike. And then I'm going to switch gears. Our last topic that we're going to dive in today is holiday sales forecasts. And I'm going to tackle this one. I have to admit, it does feel a little early early to be talking about the holidays, but I spoke to experts across retail beauty and I read a lot of data around like early projections. And the consensus is that consumers are going to be shopping super early this year. But I will sort of like preface all of this by saying that some bigger forecasts, like one from NRF, the National Retail Federation, won't be out until the first 2 weeks of October. So, we of course are like not looking at a completely full picture here, but all these projections that I gathered kind of are headed in the same direction. So I have a couple points I'll walk through. And the first one is that shoppers will be shopping early. About a quarter of holiday shoppers that were part of a Mintel market research survey recently said that they are going to be doing their shopping in October and early November. And a little less than half of the people surveyed plan to complete the majority of their shopping before Thanksgiving. And I think that the reason for that is that consumers are really looking to save money. On that same sort of like coin, the strategies that I've sort of been hearing about speaking to people are that they're either going to be spending less money by buying at more budget friendly retailers or reducing the volume of purchases overall. So one phrase I heard a lot was quality over quantity. So I think that people are getting cut, people are getting sliced from the gifting list, and people are looking to spend on less people overall. But I will say that the overall, sorry, Sophia, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I know that you mentioned Thanksgiving, so I was wondering if, the fact that Thanksgiving is a bit later this year, if there was any kind of impact on shopping behavior as a result.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was really interesting at first, I was like, oh no, this is going to be kind of negative for the industry. But then I spoke to a bunch of people who called out a really great sort of part of this. And of course, Thanksgiving falls late in November, pushing Cyber Monday all the way into December, which really only leaves like 3 weeks of shopping before Christmas, which we know is really like a week and a half before Christmas with shipping times, unless you're shopping IRL, which is also another big trend that I'm going to talk about. But one good thing that could come from this is that, of course, in the US, we have our presidential election at the very beginning of November. And I think that in an election year, people tend to be a little skittish. People tend to be a little nervous about the economy, nervous about the outcome one way or the other. And so because the presidential election is in the beginning of November and Thanksgiving is late in November, it will kind of give this like 2-3 week buffer to sort of allow people to like relax, recalibrate, get used to the results, whichever they are. And it actually might benefit the industry by giving shoppers like this time to kind of like chill, recalibrate, and then start kind of shopping in like larger numbers. And I will also say that the analysts are basically predicting cautiously optimistic, moderate gains, just a couple percentage points up this shopping season. But I do think that one of the big things is that they're going to be shopping. The prediction is that shoppers will be shopping in waves. So 3 big waves. So that's October time to compete with Prime Days, and that's October 8th and 9th. And then, of course, we'll have our election here, and then we'll have another big rush in November tied to Singles Day, and then another big rush at the end of November, early December tied to Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So we'll see those big rushes. And from some data that I saw, 34% of holiday shoppers are planning very much to shop a preseason sales event. So these will be some of the biggest drivers that we've seen. But I will also say one more thing before we can kind of wrap up in a minute here too, is that even though shoppers are predicted to spend less and they are going to kind of be looking for deals, I will say that analysts also predicted a very slow summer for retail, but that's like not at all what happened. So the Commerce Department just reported that retail and food service sales in the US were up in July and up in August, beating out all of these predictions that sales were going to be awful this summer. And also, another interesting thing that I'll call out is that more and more consumers are shopping in store. They want to go to stores. They want to find the deals that way. So 2 quick little stats here. A study from Ryder Logistics Company reported that Last year, 40% of its study participants said that they prefer shopping in store. That number jumped to 61% this year. So 1 in 5 people have changed their sentiment around whether or not they're into shopping in store, which is huge. And then also, last piece of data, but from Placer AI, which is like an analytics, like brick and mortar shopping firm, they said that indoor shopping malls were up 7.3% this summer. Outlet malls were up 6.1% with visitors, and open air shopping centers were up 5.8%. So people were shopping. It's definitely like a thing. So we don't really know exactly where the dust will settle.
Interesting. I mean, I'm sure that shoppers are going to be way more prepared with all of that time.
I think so. And it's like, shopping early it makes a lot of sense across the board, especially with all of the like drama that we've seen the last couple of years with, I don't know what's happening in the UK, Sophia, but here it's like the or the shipping delays and all of the like different things that are impacting how quickly people are getting their stuff. It's like, I think people are also sort of sick of that because we know it happens.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure that that's going to convert very well for Amazon. I think reliable delivery is something that, a lot of people look for.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then I think that's pretty much, I feel like that's pretty much it. These predictions could all shift depending on what happens in the election, and who knows, maybe we'll end up coming out of the holiday season with like this really great sales. But that is pretty much all we have for today, and we're a little bit over time. Thank you all for listening in as we discuss a couple of the top sort of topics across the beauty industry. All of this we've reported on, and you can find great content, great stories on glossy.co. So please head over there, check it out, and we'll be back in 2 weeks for another live conversation. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Thank you.